Question about an existing pool that had been used as a dumping ground. I had it emptied out, removing concrete, rocks, garbage, furniture, and water. It doesn't leak. It's a completely free-form pool, 58 feet long, about 34 feet wide. It has a spa. The shallowest part is 4 feet. Most of the pool is 6 feet or greater in depth, but at the main drain it goes down to 14 feet. There's 2 skimmers, 8 return jets between the pool and the spa, plus 12 blower jets in the spa. With all of this, the largest diameter pipe is only 1.5 inches diameter PVC. This obviously holds a lot of water. How did they then, or how do I move the water now? None of the original equipment still exists. Also, this pool is absurdly deep. Would having it shallow to 5.5 feet at the deepest be a good or economical move?
Well, I think first off that any pool 14 foot deep residential pool is unnecessary. Whether it's a good economical move to shallow the pool, I think in the long term it probably is, because you're servicing that much less water. If you took it from 14 feet deep and made it 5.5 feet deep, you're eliminating probably 40 to 50% of the water throughout the entire pool, I would imagine. So you're cutting your volume in half, which helps with this other problem that you have of the plumbing. Now, how they did it then, I suspect not very well. That's why it became a dumping ground, because likely there's no way that they could keep that pool clean and serviceable and usable, and it probably became that much of a hassle, and instead they decided that they would just fill it in with something. So your issue is twofold. I do think shallowing the pool is a great idea. I don't know that that's an economical option. I think it's a really good option. But secondly, I think if you're going to take the time and effort to bring this back to life, this amazing pool, you have to change some of the underground plumbing. And I know that while the underground plumbing, the existing plumbing is good, or is holding air, I still think that there's really no way with that volume, that size of a pool, and I'm guessing you said 50 something feet long by 34 at its widest, which would lend me to believe it's probably 1,000 to 1,100 square feet if it's free form. 2 skimmers, while adequate, 1.5 inch plumbing, not adequate. 1 main drain, 1.5 inch plumbing, not adequate. Of course, you'll certainly want to, if you shallow up the pool, you'll certainly want to have a dual main drain so that it meets current code. But the plumbing is still not adequate enough. I think at some point you're going to have to penetrate through the wall and run larger suction plumbing, main drain lines, and return lines to and from the pool, because you have to turn the volume over. That amount of water is going to take a long time. With any pump pushing through 1.5 inch plumbing, you'll turn the pool over in 3 days, if that, versus turning it over at least once a day to keep the pool properly clean. So it's not going to be an economical thing no matter what, and you may want to look at why they decided not to use the pool as it was, and I suspect some of it had to do with the maintenance of trying to keep it clean the way it was. But my recommendation would be to absolutely shallow the pool, but it'll make it a lot more functional and usable and enjoyable, number one. And then the second thing I would say to do is you have to increase some of the plumbing size. I don't know what the patio is around. I don't know the availability and where the equipment can be placed. But if you're going to get that deep in where you're shallowing up the pool, you need to get farther into it and replace some of the plumbing. If not all of it, but at least some of it, so that you can increase your volume of water to and from the pool.
As you're talking through that, I'm just curious, have you ever seen somebody put multiple pump and filters on a single pool? Like, you know, just run one pump for the skimmers and a couple of the lines and do another one for another set. Would that be a workaround?
It would not be a workaround, because you still have your restrictions and your draw, your suction line and your return line. You can only draw so much water through those size pipes. If it's 1.5 inches, it's likely no matter how big of a monster pump you put on there or how many pumps you put on there, that line legally can only take about 60 gallons a minute running through it one way or the other. And now if we look at the code that is saying you need certain number of feet per second of water drawing from the pool and a different amount running back to the pool, the math is just never going to add up. You're going to have suction line velocities of the water way too high to make the pool safe to use. So in large part, you have that whole issue. You just can't move enough water through those pipes, no matter how big of equipment or how many pieces of equipment you put on. And secondly to that is if each of the return lines ran back to the pool independently, then sure, you could put a skimmer and tied to a main drain together and filter and return through some of the plumbing, and then do the others and return through the other plumbing. But being that it's probably a rat's nest underneath, you run 1.5 inch line back that splits off into 8 separate returns into the pool. Will automatically from that split back to the equipment, the plumbing is just not going to be able to handle much water. So they never probably got much water returning out of 8 jets that you could probably barely feel the water move, because the equipment could only really move 60 gallons a minute through it, when a pool that size needs to be turning over 100 to 150 or 200 gallons a minute for it to really work optimally.